You got the Eight of Swords. Now, while this card does seem a bit dreary and possibly negative, it's actually not. When this card comes up, it usually means that the querent has been feeling limited or stuck in some kind of way. However, the ultimate reality is that you have so much more power than you even realize right now. The obstacles you're facing only seem overwhelming and impossible. The reality is that you have everything that you need to overcome your obstacles. It just seems and feels this way temporarily for right now. You may have experienced something traumatic or upsetting that makes you feel this way, but just know that the worst is over. If you'll notice, she's wrapped in some ropes that aren't binding her very tightly. She could worm herself out of there and undo her own blindfold. And those swords, they're stuck in the ground and the people are gone. So I think she's going to be okay now. I think she's mostly just scared. So you're just feeling trapped and limited right now, perhaps. You might feel like you have very limited options. You may feel weakened by the circumstances in your life or by others' opinions of you. You may feel like you're being controlled by others, perhaps. However, in situations like these, the truth of the matter is that these limitations, even though they feel very real, they are mostly self-imposed. No one really has power over us unless we give it to them. You've got to take your own power back. Practice mindfulness and ask yourself what you can do to get out of this stuck situation and what you need to do to be able to move forward. Often, all that is needed to get unstuck is the courage to think in a new way. This is a card in the minor arcana, so this is probably referring to a lot of small things overwhelming you rather than anything truly big and overwhelming, even though it might feel that way. It's a suit of swords, so it represents the element of air. So this has to do with your thinking, your speaking, and your mental energies. These are extremely powerful tools and forces, but they can be used for both good or bad. It's truly double-edged. So don't let your own or anyone else's negative speaking or mental energies stand in the way and surround you or bully you out of having a pure positive consciousness, because that's the true power, not all this negative fuss. Don't let your own fears or negativity get you down or anyone else's, because the universe is telling you you do have more power than you even realize. You just don't know it. And that's really the only thing that's holding you back. We all feel like this every now and then. So this is just a reminder from the universe. You have all the power. Not your fears, or not anybody else that's trying to have power over you. As the suits are associated with air, the element of air is one of the 4 classic elements of esoteric symbolism and philosophy. It's associated with the mind, the soul, and the breath of life. Its dominion on the 4 corners of the earth is the east. 8 is the number of abundance, leadership, and influence. It represents honor, respect, rewards, and power. The number 8 is telling you it's time to consolidate material and spiritual resources. It represents cosmic consciousness and infinity. Astrologically, the 8 of Swords represents Jupiter in Gemini, and also from May 21st to May 31st. Jupiter in Gemini is telling you that this is a time to use your intellect and positive thinking and energy to bring you good fortune in this situation. Communication and wit is the key here to success. It represents the Hod of Yetzirah. The general divinatory meanings could be interference, being good-natured at the wrong time, unexpected quote-unquote bad luck. It could mean energy wasted on important details. There's much symbolism in the Rider-Waite image, such as the fact that she's wearing a blindfold, because she's not seeing clearly right now in her situation, probably out of her own trauma and fear of whatever has just happened to her. She may not realize that the worst is over, everyone's gone, and she could probably wriggle out and see for herself that everything's safe. She just hasn't realized that yet. The swords all around her symbolize what's going on in her mind. Maybe it's her sense of honor, her virtue. Maybe people are communicating negative things or rationalizing things or eliminating hope or putting you down or making you worry, and you need to just eliminate that. That is not truth, and just reject it. It is just a bunch of mess. It's just a bunch of fuss. The worst is over. They're stuck in the ground and they don't have anybody holding them anymore. They wield no real power against you. If you'll also notice, there's a castle in the background. And castles symbolize the manifestation of our goals. They also symbolize protection, civilization, and society. As soon as she takes off her blindfold, she'll realize that really she's not too far from her hopes and dreams. As soon as she takes off her blindfold and turns around, she'll see that she's not far from protection and safety. If you'll also notice the pools at her feet, that represents water and emotions. Perhaps she was flooded with them and now beginning to recede. This card is related to the heart chakra. So when you get this card, this may mean that your heart chakra could be out of balance. It's associated with hexagram 39, which means limping. It is Kien. It means an obstruction, halting, or hardship. In the state indicated by Kien, advantage will be found in the southwest and the contrary in the northeast. It will be advantageous also to meet with the great man. In these circumstances, with firmness and correctness, there will be good fortune. The color gray symbolizes wisdom, mourning, humility, and indecision. Blue symbolizes emotions, thoughtfulness, peace, calmness, harmony, faithfulness, and even sadness. Red symbolizes danger, sacrifice, passion, fire, beauty, blood, and anger. There are 2 angels and 2 demons represented by this card. These are 2 archangels of the 72 names of God. Umabel, or Vamabel, is the 61st name of God. Deus super omne nomen, which means God above all names elevated. The prayer to invoke this angel is Psalms 113:2. Blessed be the name of the Lord, from this time forth and forevermore. Sit nomen Domini benedictum ex hoc nunc et usque in saeculum. Umabel is good to call upon to obtain friendship of a given person. A person born under their influence is fond of travel and honest pleasures. They have a sensitive heart. Their influence time and dates are between 8 p.m. and 8:20. Also the 20th of January until the 24th of January. His attribute is God above all things. He corresponds to the name of Sela, following the language of the ancient Bethulians. His ray commences from the 301st degree up to the 305th degree inclusive, corresponding to the 31st decade and to the angel Tiau, under the influence of Venus. Umabel also rules over the following individual days: May 19th, July 30th, October 10th, December 31st, and March 3rd. It's best to do their invocation from 8 p.m. until 8:20, where they're the most powerful. Umabel serves to attain a person's friendship. He rules over astronomy and physics. He influences all of those who distinguish themselves in these fields. With meditation on the name of Umabel, you can purify the waters of the earth and awaken the forces of healing and immortality. Those who offend the spirit of Umabel, he may exercise his authority to the contrary side of his nature. He works against libertines, and particularly those who deliver themselves up to the passions contrary to the order of nature. Iahel, or Yohehel. The Latin is Deus ens supremum, God the highest being. To invoke this angel, recite the 159th verse of Psalm 119. Consider how I love thy precepts. Quicken me, O Lord, according to thy loving kindness. Vide quoniam mandata tua dilexi Domine in misericordia tua vivifica me. This angel corresponds to the acquisition of wisdom. They govern philosophers and illuminati. They love tranquility, solitude, modesty, and they're virtuous. Their most influential time and dates are from 821 to 840. They rule from January the 25th until the 29th. His attribute is supreme being. He corresponds to the name of Suna, following the language of the ancient Carmanians. His ray commences from the 306th degree up to the 310th degree inclusive, corresponding to the 31st decade into the angel called Oroasoer. This angel also rules over the individual days, May 20th, July 31st, October 11th, December 22nd, and March 4th. It's best to invoke this angel during the times of 8:20 p.m. until 8:40 p.m. This angel helps to serve to acquire wisdom and rules over philosophers, enlightened ones, and all those who wish to retire from the world. A person born under this influence will love tranquility and solitude. They will precisely fulfill duties of his state and will be distinguished by his modesty and virtues. Meditate on this name to bring desires to lovingly, respectfully, and selflessly share this wisdom with children. The preacher in you will be silence. The teacher in you will shine through in all your actions. The negative side of this angel, in other words, if you offend this angel, they have the authority to allow you to be dealt with by the lower energies who have to do with scandals. They are involved in luxury, inconsistency, and divorce, and they provoke disunion between lovers, or more accurately, spouses. As to the lower entities, they are certainly last and least. These negative entities should never be appealed to for favors or cowered to in any way. You rebuke them under the name of God. They are rogue abominations, but they do have some dominion over the earth that is not to be flinched at. Though they have their own free will, they are subject to the authority of God, as are we. And we have been given authority by God to dispel their influence and to subject them to our own authority given to us by God. But you do not have this authority in and of yourself without God. And many people make the mistake of appealing to these entities for their powers rather than going directly to God and the higher entities for such things. This is usually because it is outside of the will of God and they know better than to go to God about such things. But that isn't the point. The point is that these entities do exist, and while you shouldn't appeal to them or even be afraid of them, you should know of their existence and how they manifest so that you can deal with them just the same as you would when pests in our physical world come around. Amon. He claims to be a great and powerful marquis of the infernal empire. But it's been my experience in researching demons, they all kind of say that they're all this powerful whatever. And outside of the protection of God, if you are subject to their dominion for your own giving in to them, they really can do a lot of damage. But Umabel and Iahel and God Almighty have your back, so don't even worry about that. If there's ever a scandal or a feud between friends or lovers or spouses, if there's perhaps a reconciliation of friends who were estranged, but they're coming together to get up to no good, if luxuries are involved, to excess, divorce, and disputes, you may suspect that Amon may be up to something. rebuke him. Never ask him for any favors, but do demand that he undo on what he has done for evil, because they are subject to the authority of God in your behalf if you call upon the name of God. He is in direct service under the demon Satanakia. This is a demon used in black magic. He commands 40 infernal legions. They're like gang members. And it is one of the 4 personal assistants of Ashtaroth. He's the 7th spirit of the Goetia. He is the same thing as the Egyptian god Amun and the Carthaginian god Baal-Haman. Sabnok. He is the 43rd spirit of the Goetia. Allegedly, he is a mighty great Marquis of Hell, who has 50 legions of demons under his command. He builds high towers, castles, and cities, and furnishes them with weapons, ammunition, etc. Supposedly he gives good familiars, and can afflict men for several days, making their wounds and sores gangrenous, or filling them with worms. He's depicted as a soldier with armor and weapons, and the head of a lion, and riding a pale horse. King Solomon commanded this demon into a brass bowl when he took charge of it. Under the old law, BC, there might have been a need for that, but under the new law, AD, there's no need for that. Just cast the spirit out in the name of the Most High God, Yahweh, and invoking his 72 names. This is a summary interpretation of the 8 of Swords. And not complete, but comprehensive, esoteric, and Gnostic and Kabbalic associations.